The sun was barely rising over the endless prairie when Luke Harper, a young cowboy with calloused hands and a heart full of dreams, rode into the small town of Red River. He had only $12 in his worn leather pouch, but he carried more than money. He carried hope, courage, and a determination that refused to be broken. Life hadn't been easy for Luke. Orphaned at a young age and raised by his stern but loving uncle, he had learned to ride, rope, and work the land, but he had never known the warmth of a family he could truly call his own. Yet today, he had one mission: to buy a horse. Not just any horse, but one that could carry him into a future he could scarcely imagine. As Luke approached the corral, he noticed a herd of horses stampeded by the gentle wind, their manes dancing like flames. Among them was a striking chestnut stallion with a white blaze running down his nose. Something about the horse's eyes called to Luke, a mixture of spirit and trust that mirrored his own. He walked closer, his boots crunching against the dry earth, and ran a hand over the horse's flank. The stallion nickered softly, as if acknowledging him, sensing the same longing in Luke's heart. "That horse ain't for sale," said a voice behind him. Luke turned to see an older man, dressed in a patchwork of Western wear and traditional beads, leaning against the corral fence. His skin was weathered, his eyes sharp, but there was a kindness in them that put Luke at ease. This was Chief Running Elk, the leader of the local native tribe, a man known for both his wisdom and his fairness. I have $12, Luke stammered, unsure if it would even make a dent. "I just need a horse to start a ranch of my own." "I'll pay you whatever you think is fair." Chief Running Elk chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Son, $12 won't buy that horse. Not in gold or silver. But there are other forms of payment that matter more than money." Luke's brow furrowed. He had heard of bartering, but what could he possibly offer a chief? The chief studied him for a long moment, then said, "You have courage. You have honesty, and you have a heart that sees more than just the surface. If your heart is true, you may have this horse, but the price is different." Luke's stomach tightened. "Different? What do you mean?" The chief smiled faintly and gestured behind him. Two young women stepped forward, their movements quiet yet deliberate. They were strikingly beautiful, with eyes that reflected both intelligence and kindness. Luke's heart skipped a beat, but he quickly realized he misunderstood. The chief's voice cut through the morning air like a gentle wind. "These are my daughters, Ayanna and Nayeli. They will live with you on your ranch, help you, and share your life. If you are worthy, you will treat them with respect, teach them, and protect them. In return, this horse is yours." Luke stared at them in disbelief. He had come seeking a horse, not to become the guardian of the chief's daughters. His mind raced with questions. Were they to be servants? How could he ensure their safety? Would the chief think him greedy or unfit? Sensing his hesitation, Chief Running Elk placed a hand on his shoulder. "Luke Harper, the price is not mine to dictate beyond this. If your heart is good and your intentions pure, then what I ask will bring honor to all of us. But if it is tainted by greed, you will find no prosperity here." Luke swallowed hard. He had always believed in fairness and honesty. He had always believed that acts of kindness, no matter how small, had a way of creating something bigger than oneself. And in that instant, he realized that this was a test, not of wealth, but of heart. I will do my best," he said quietly, though the words trembled with uncertainty. The chief nodded and gestured to the stallion. "Then he is yours, Luke. Treat him well, and he will carry you far." Luke mounted the horse carefully, feeling its power beneath him, a surge of hope coursing through his veins. But as he looked back at Ayanna and Nayeli, he knew this was only the beginning of a journey that would test his spirit in ways he had never imagined. The ride to the Harper Ranch was long and silent, the only sounds the rhythmic clip-clop of the stallion's hooves and the wind brushing against the tall prairie grass. Luke kept stealing glances at the sisters, who followed at a careful distance. Despite the awkwardness, there was a subtle grace in their movements, and he sensed they were as cautious as he was, both unsure of what this arrangement might mean. By the time they reached the ranch, the sun had dipped low, painting the sky in shades of orange and crimson. The old farmhouse creaked under the weight of years, and the land sprawled wide and empty, dotted with grazing cattle and the promise of untamed potential. Luke felt a pang of both pride and responsibility. This land would be his canvas, and somehow, he knew the sisters would be part of its future. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a rhythm. Luke taught Ayanna and Nayeli how to care for the horses, mend fences, and tend the fields. In turn, they shared stories of their tribe, of lessons learned under the guidance of their father, and of the rich traditions that bound them to the land and to each other. Slowly, trust grew between them. Luke discovered that Ayanna had a knack for strategy and leadership, while Naeli's empathy and intuition were unmatched. They were not just helpers, they were partners, teaching him as much as he taught them. And the stallion, the chestnut horse, became a symbol of their shared journey, its strength and loyalty reflecting the bond they were building. One evening, a violent storm rolled across the prairie. The wind tore at the farmhouse, rain lashed the windows, and the sky flashed with lightning that illuminated the darkened fields. Luke and the sisters worked together to secure the horses and livestock, moving with a synchronicity that spoke of unspoken trust. At one point, a frightened colt broke free, galloping toward the cliffside where the earth fell sharply into the river below. Without hesitation, Luke mounted the chestnut stallion and rode after it, calling out to the colt. Ayanna and Naeli followed on foot, shouting encouragement. The stallion surged forward, hooves pounding the wet ground, muscles straining against gravity and fear. Just as the colt teetered on the edge, Luke threw a lasso with precision, pulling it to safety. When the danger passed, they all collapsed, soaked and trembling, but alive. In that moment, Luke realized that family wasn't defined by blood alone. It was forged in trust, in courage, and in the willingness to protect one another at all costs. Months passed, and the Harper Ranch began to thrive. Crops flourished, horses grew strong, and word of Luke's fair and kind leadership spread across the county. Yet the most profound transformation was not in the land or animals, it was in the hearts of those who shared it. One afternoon, Chief Running Elk rode into the ranch, his presence commanding yet gentle. He observed the harmony of their lives, Luke working alongside the sisters, the laughter that echoed across the fields, and the chestnut stallion grazing peacefully. "You have honored the trust I placed in you, Luke Harper," the chief said, dismounting. "Not with wealth, but with your heart. You have proven that family can be chosen and nurtured, that respect and care are worth more than gold. Today, you are no longer just a cowboy, you are a leader, a guardian, and a son of this land." Luke bowed his head, feeling both humility and pride. "Thank you, Chief. Your daughters, they've taught me more than I could have ever imagined. They've become my family, not because of any deal, but because of the lives we've built together." Ayanna and Naeli smiled, their eyes glistening with tears. They had found a home in Luke's care, but more than that, they had found mutual respect and love, a bond that transcended tradition and expectation. The chief placed a hand on Luke's shoulder once more. "Remember this, kindness is the seed of legacy. You have sown it well, and it will grow far beyond what you can see." Luke looked out over the fields, the sun setting in a brilliant blaze of gold. The chestnut stallion nuzzled his shoulder, a silent companion in the journey that had begun with $12, courage, and a leap of faith. He understood now that true wealth was not measured in money, but in trust, compassion, and the family one chooses to love. And so, the Harper Ranch flourished, not merely as a place of work, but as a sanctuary of humanity, where hearts were tested, bonds were forged, and the power of kindness created a legacy that would be remembered for generations. Luke, Ayanna, and Naeli stood together at the edge of the prairie, the wind carrying the promise of tomorrow. And in the gentle nicker of the chestnut stallion, they heard a reminder that the greatest deals in life were never about what was given, but about what was shared, protected, and cherished from the heart.